Does anyone else think movies make high school look way more exciting than it really is, especially the parties? I don't know about you, but the parties that I went to and held were pretty out of hand lol. I would even say that a lot of what you see on TV is G-rated compared to some of the high school bashes we had. Movies also have high schoolers played by 28-year-olds. Remember, movies and TV are written by horny Hollywood writers who are way past their prime. I think it's pretty funny when you realize that the high schoolers that are doing drugs and having sex were written by an adult much older than the characters. Can you imagine sitting around in a writing session with a bunch of 40-year-olds trying to plot out a bunch of 15-year-olds getting down and dirty? I dunno, my high school life was pretty similar to the movies. We had your big 100-person parties. Loads of skipping class, chasing girls, and doing drugs. Ran from the cops on several occasions. School was definitely a place to socialize, not a place to learn. You kinda had your cliques. But I was in high school in the 2000s, so the groups were a bit different than movies depicting the 80s and 90s. Skaters, emos, preps, jocks, AP kids, French immersion, etc. were our cliques. The most similar movies are probably 21 Jump Street and Superbad. Those movies really felt like they captured my experience. Skins showed parties that were pretty close to what we got up to on weekends. I threw and attended some pretty wild parties in high school. I got all as in high school and definitely had an exciting high school life. I feel it's pretty accurate for what I experienced. Yeah, I was extremely disappointed. I mean, we partied pretty hard in my high school, but we lived in a typical upper middle class rich suburb. We were inspired by all the late 90s early 2000s movies. High school was pretty fun for me. Maybe not Hollywood fun, but we had a lot of what you're describing. I mean, my HS parties were pretty nuts tbh, lots of alcohol and crazy teenagers. When I was 15, I went to a party at a guy's house where the parents were away for 2 weeks that got taken over by bikers. I saw tattoos being done, group sex and intravenous drug use. A biker woman offered to take my virginity. We saw some shit at HS parties. I've never heard of a movie making something more exciting than it is. Every movie I've ever seen has just been a still camera recording a street as people go about their day. Now I remember parties in HS being like most HS parties are portrayed in movies. Then again, this would have been 98-2002. Now, fuck no, haha. Yeah, movies definitely exaggerate high school life. It's mostly just studying and drama, not wild parties. I went to an inner city performing arts high school. Shit was like Victorious meets Degrassi. I saw fights, pregnant freshmen, middle schoolers suspended for bringing drugs into school, smoking weed in the bathrooms. People would sneak off to have sex in the dressing rooms. We'd definitely skip out of school altogether and just run around the city. BC, they gave us bus passes instead of school buses. So yeah, the parties were what you'd expect. Craziest 4 years of my life. You couldn't pay me to go back, but I wouldn't change it for the world. And for the record, most of the people I'm still in touch with have done pretty well for themselves. Many even made careers in the industry of their major, which I love to see. Firm believer that kids just need to be feral sometimes. Absolutely. Not even a question. But consider this. Movies make everything look way more exciting than it really is, especially big social events. Why would a movie depict a typical high schooler's experience of just going to school, having minimal friends, and going home to play video games? What a boring movie that would be. The parties weren't always on the level of those in movies, but they definitely felt like it at the time, and I guess that's what movies capture. However, I did experience those kinds of things a few times during high school parties, at houses where the parents were on vacation, and way too many people would turn up at the house with all sorts of carnage ensuing. We had crazy parties when I was in high school, lots of drugs, which I never did, but everyone else did, lots of people locking themselves in bedrooms for sex group. My friends and I were mostly nerds in high school. Now as dads we complain our teenagers never leave the house to party compared to our youth. It's that different.